What's up YouTube, Webbers5 here, coming at you today after a quite extended break with an update to my Plunder Patrol deck of Metalmorph Plunder, or as I like to call it, Robot Pirate Island. If you understand that reference, comment below because I love that. So for those starting to question, Metalmorph Plunder, AJ, Webbers, what exactly is the synergy between the two? So I came up with this idea because I thought to myself, for those thinking from the perspective, doesn't Plunder Patrol lock you into your summonings depending on if you used like Whitebeard, Golden Hair, Black Eyes? Yes, but think about this. Metalmorph summons through a trap card, and you're not going to be doing that on your first turn. So naturally, you can Metalmorph you're just going to do the Metalmorph on your opponent's turn, which gives you extra layers of disruption without the Plunder Patrol locking you out. So that's how I thought of coming into it. So that's part of the reason I thought of coming to it. Also, another thing that I thought of when doing so, I started off doing this as like a small 6-card engine just for the Metal Zoa, just playing in the Fiends. Then I wanted to try and extend it a bit more to try and put in drag. The main reason I thought of putting it with the Fiends, because I thought, if I have Bran on the field and my opponent's got a monster, I can normal summon Zoa without tributing, and because Zoa is a fiend, it gets 500 points. That's a 3100 normal summon without a tribute. That's kind of reason enough to give this thing a try. Before you add in all the additional stuff that Metalmorph can actually do for the Plunder Patrol strategy. So, now that I've kind of got through the base idea of how I came up with why I wanted to try this, let's get into the profile. So guys, starting off with the main deck, the Plunder Patrol side. Pretty standard. So we're playing 3 Whitebeard, 3 Golden Hair, 3 Black Eyes, 3 Bluebeard, 2 Redbeard, 1 Terraforming, 3 Shipyard, and 1 Booty. So naturally just 3 of all the important Plunder cards that you use as like your starters, extenders, searcher, and then lesser engine of the stuff that you want to see or you search. So pretty straightforward in that. Okay, now into the Metalmorph engine. So for the Metalmorph side of the deck, playing 1 Red Eyes Black Full Metal Dragon, 1 Metal Zoa X, 1 copy of Metal Illusionist, 2 copies of Zoa the Fiendish Beast, 3 copies of Incoming Machine, 2 copies of Max Metalmorph, and a single copy of Time Engine. So guys, quickly going into the basics of how I kind of came up with the idea of synergizing through with it. So originally when I started trying this out, these weren't in it, and that was the main basis was Zoa the Fiendish Beast, Metal Zoa X, because naturally Plunder Patrol is all fiends, so the original concept was Max Metalmorph on something like Bran or Lise to turn to Metal Zoa X as another layer of disruption if you've already used their effect. Additionally, if say your opponent's trying something like say Chain Imperm or Droplet to try and negate one of your plunder effects. I mean, Droplet's not the best example because it doesn't target, but so yeah, I'll just go from the Imperm. Say your opponent's just going, okay, Chain Imperm, target the Plunder Patrol ship that you're trying to use. You can go Chain Max Metalmorph, tribute off the Plunder ship that you're about to use to go into Zoa so as to dodge the Imperm, and then that still gives you the extra layer of disruption. So that was part of the original concept of why I came up with it. However guys, if you are doing it from that perspective, from the protection perspective, to allow your plunder effect to go through, do naturally keep in mind because Max Metalmorph tributes his cost, and Plunder Patrol least cares about being equipped in order to be, being equipped to get the search. So if you do it on least, it does mean you're not going to get a search. So do keep that in mind if you're doing so. But I did think of others. But then I did think of the other perspective of like Zoa's individual effect that actually could be quite beneficial to Plunder Patrol. So for those who haven't really seen what the new Zoa does, so I did do a little bit about this in the introduction, stating that yes, it's a potential very big normal summon. So Zoa's first effect is if you can normal summon it without tributing if your opponent controls a monster. So Plunder Patrol naturally is okay going first to set up, but simultaneously going second is also fine because you want to manipulate your opponent's attributes. In my case, it's also quite good for my locals This is also quite good for me going second at my locals, because I do have a Horus stun player who likes to end his board on things like Vanities and Majesty's Fiend. So this is just a way of just being like, okay, Vanity's Fiend, normal summon Zoa, battle phase, punch, main 2, continue. So yeah, that's for me one benefit of me doing the Metalmorph package. And then the second benefit of like Metalmorph in Plunder is Zoa's special summoning effect. So Zoa's special summon effect is if it's in your hand, you can special summon it, but if Max Metalmorph isn't in your graveyard, your opponent can special summon a monster from their hand. Your opponent's allowed to special summon a monster from their hand. But that's not so bad, because if you're going first, by doing Zoa's hand effect, you're giving your opponent the option to put something onto their to put a monster onto their field, which means they're putting an attribute on their field, which you could potentially take advantage of. And if you go if you're game 1 starting with this engine, your opponent doesn't know you're on Plunder Patrol yet. Unless you're me and you're potentially using this playmat, then they might guess at that. But I wouldn't do that. So while your opponent's like in the position of going blind, they might be thinking, they might think maybe he's on pure Metalmorph, maybe he's on the bestial variant. So I'm like, okay, special summon. So I'm like, all right, I'll just special summon this monster. And if it's an attribute you can use, then you just show, okay, summon this Plunder Patrol, and they're like, oh dear, I've just put an attribute they can use. So yeah, it's a potential way that you can go Blackbeard turn 1 to get a ship with an equip and start being able to disrupt your opponent. Though naturally, guys, one of the problems you have to think about with terms of doing Zoa is if your opponent's playing things like Kashteras, because you do Zoa from your hand, you do Zoa's effect, your opponent could just go, alright, summon Fenrir, and then you have to worry about that. So that's a bit of a risk in terms of the engine, but if your opponent's going blind or they don't have, say, a Kashtera that they're using, you might be okay. And then once I started thinking from that perspective of putting attributes on your opponent's field, naturally because Max Metalmorph works on your opponent's turn, I thought maybe I can try putting in the full engine, so I opted to put the full thing. So yes, doing the red eyes is a bit more difficult because Plunder Patrol is fiends as opposed to dragons. I do have a small dragon engine in here, which I will get to later. And then naturally, of course, there's the Metal Illusionist option as well, because you can turn it into a dragon when it's on the field, which will give you the option to Max Metalmorph into that. But if you've got the dragon engine, which again I'll get to in this moment, you can essentially just use it as you could just potentially use it as a discard. And then Time Engine, I just thought, why not? Yeah, why not? Let you just bring stuff back. So, yeah, why not? Not necessarily the best, but it's an option. And then, kind of the rest of the deck / filler. Well, for starters, I'll just quickly go into the dragons. You guys have probably guessed what it is. It's Bestials, so 1 Magnamoot and 2 Drosworm. So for me, it's 1 Magnamoot, 2 Drosworm. So yeah, I figured this would be the easy. I figured Bestials would be the easiest way to allow the Red Eyes to be live with the Metalmorph package. Because naturally, as I said, if you use like say Metal Illusionist as a discard, that makes a Bestial live on your opponent's turn. The other advantage of the Bestials with Metalmorph is if say you go Drosworm to disrupt something in your opponent's grave and special summon it on their turn. You can then go, when you're at a good point, you can go Metalmorph, Max Metalmorph, Tribute Drosworm, special the Red Eyes. Now you've got an Omni. Now you've got an Omni negate, and because you sacked off the Drosworm, you get to send something. So yeah, really good from that perspective. Really good from that perspective. So that's just that's just the basics of the Dragon Energy, which you guys probably figured out, and then just kind of the rest of the deck for filler. One copy of Mudora just for a bit of recovery, because frankly, because the thing with the ship, because naturally with Plunder Patrol ships, because if you summon them off the effects of Plunders, they don't count as being properly summoned, so you might need to be in a position of putting them back. So I figured, why not? Then other cards, 3 Triple Tactics Talents, just goes hand traps, and 3 Imperm, because Imperm. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Going into the extra deck. So playing for the Plunder side, 3 copies of Blackbeard, 2 copies of Lease, 2 copies of Bran, 2 Merc, and 2 Yord, or Jord. I say Yord because I'm thinking from the perspective of like Nordics, Viking, they'd probably call it the Yord. But I might be right, I might be wrong, I don't really know. But yeah, I figured just... I understand that most people typically play 1 of this, and I'm not against that. I would probably play 1, I just can't think of something else to throw into my extra deck that I'd want to sub it with yet, so... If anyone's got any suggestions based on the remainder of my extra deck, just let me know, I'll consider it. And then the last bits of my extra deck, playing one Necro-Equipped Princess. Just thought of that from the perspective, I can just use it quite easily off its own effect. And naturally the kind of synergy with Plunder from when monsters are sent from your hand to the graveyard to activate effects, which naturally all the Plunders do. You can use one of her effects to either equip it to draw a card, which naturally allows Shipyard to give more boosts, or you can use its own effect to draw a card to just try and hit into more disruptions. So yeah, I figured why not. There, one copy of Scarlight, just as a nice board breaking option. 1 Abyss Dweller. Grave has been quite prominent at my locals with a lot of Fire Kings, so I figured might as well have an option of Dweller just to shut that off. And actually, since the entire deck is level 4 waters, gets a boost. And then last extra deck slot, 1 copy of Almirage, because naturally normal summon Golden Hair is just normal summon Golden Hair with a discard in hand. Really easy Blackbeard. And then, I suppose I could just quickly showcase these. So naturally for Yord's effect, got Light, Dark, and Fire Plunder Patrol tokens. Just some custom ones I did, but they each have the correct stats and attributes. And as for the picture, I just chose one of the Plunder Patrol cards with kind of the Plunder Patrol emblem, so kind of just went for that. Side deck's still a bit work in progress, but this is what I'm rolling with for the moment. Just playing 3 copies of Ghost Ogre, 3 Tactics Thrust, 2 Lightning Storm, 1 Feather Duster, and 3 copies of Dimensional Barrier. I currently have 3 slots available in my side deck. I haven't figured out what I want to put in yet. I was originally thinking like DD Crow, but because I'm playing Bestials, I kind of thought, do I really need it if I'm playing Bestials? Probably not. Probably not. So I might have to figure out something else to put in, but I haven't figured out what yet. And I figured I might as well. And I figured going into the thrust line because naturally I'm doing things like, well, because like my good disruptions are normal spells, so why not? Also, even against Mimical, Lightning Storm is good because they'll put stuff face down on your field, unless they, you know, flip. And typically, like if they flip it up, not so bad because it's just going to come back to them. If anyone's got any suggestions of like decent side deck options, go for it. I was probably thinking I'm probably just going to use something like, say, probably like Effect Veiler or maybe Ash Blossom, but I'm undecided yet. Okay guys, so that was the profile. I hope you all enjoyed it. Leave a comment down below of what you thought about it, and actually comment down below if you understand the reference of Robot Pirate Island. And before I end the video, if anyone's like curious of like, if anyone's now thinking, Webbers, this looks quite interesting, but what does like a typical end board look like? If you want, I could potentially do some combo tutorials if you prefer, but from what I found in testing, a standard kind of end board with Metalmorph Plunder is you will end on Blackbeard. You'll typically end on Blackbeard, Max Metalmorph set, and potentially like, usually you will have at least a level 5 or higher monster that you can use for the Metalmorph. Naturally kind of doing blind test Naturally, me just doing blind test hands is a bit difficult with Plunder Patrol because, as I said, like with Zoa, your opponent has the option of special summoning a monster from their hand, which kind of part of your... And naturally, Plunder Patrol is very reliant on attributes, so really kind of hard to test when you don't really know what attributes you're working with. So, but typically, so yeah, kind of hard for me to figure out where I can go from there, but typically with the options available, you'll have the Metalmorph. Typically, a test board hand, you'll end with the Metalmorph live on your opponent's turn, Blackbeard to tag into a ship, and maybe like then maybe like 1 to 2 other disruptions. And naturally, potentially, depending on what if your opponent has chosen to summon off of the Zoa, maybe you will have turned that Blackbeard into a ship. So, yeah. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, guys, and I will see you next time.